and I reached to the kitchen where the cutlass is kept. There, I could not find the cutlass. I reached where we keep the knives because I decided I'm gonna kill him.
We may look different and live in different countries, yet our stories are knitted with the same threads of excitement, uncertainties, challenges, and victories. As we journey through the ups and downs of life, it is our undeniable will and God's strength that propel us to joy after pain, smile after frowns, and ups after downs. We were born to win. We were destined to greatness. We are overcomers. Welcome to God's Scoops, Raw and Unedited Stories. Welcome, Bernice, to Raw and Unedited Stories. How are you doing?
Hi, Pat. I'm getting there. Thanks be to God, I'm getting there. And good day
Thank you,
to your
Bernice.
listeners,
Yeah, thank you.
viewers.
All right. Thank you for coming and, just taking the time out to share with us today, about your story. Before you begin, Bernice, to talk about the journey that you have been on, just tell me just a little bit about yourself. And what I really want to find out too is where you hail from. What part of the world?
Okay, I'm from the parish of Clarendon in Jamaica, and a little district called Brandon Hill. Yep, that's me.
Wow. All right, Bernice. So tell us your story.
The truth, Pat, I'm still finding out about me. I'm still finding out who I am, and it's been a long journey. And thank God that He's so patient with me. I got pregnant as a young unmarried girl at the age of 18. And for me, that was really difficult because when I passed common entrance in the country, they changed my school. Every student from Brandon Hill would have attended Clarendon College. But my parents changed it to send me to live with my sisters in Harborview, Kingston. And so they put Camperdown because I used to do track and field. And they thought that would be something that would be beneficial to me. So I was sent straight from Clarendon, country girl, into Kingston, to Camperdown High School. And so that in itself was a challenge because here I am missing all my friends, everything, coming to this strange place. Being in high school was very difficult for me. I had a terrible years. Probably the first 3 years, were very terrible in high school because I was mocked as this country girl. Or you talk country, or you come from country, you walk country. Yes, those were what I had to live with, and I couldn't wait for every single time that school would give holiday. School give holiday today. I am on the next bus, the country bus, the next day to country where my friends were, and I could just be myself. And
Okay.
then
So that's when your challenge started. But how was
yeah,
your home life then? And um, after you left high school, what happened being a single mother?
okay, right. So just after I finished high school, and I repeated because I didn't get enough subjects. I repeated one more year to get some more subjects. As soon as that was finished, I got pregnant. I could not go back to my parents because just imagine after leaving, you're expecting to be this child that, or you get the opportunity to bring home something, a job that you're going to be in a job, but you're bringing home a pregnancy. That was not allowed. And my parents were very strict. And so I was really afraid to go back to them. So I stayed away. Went, stayed with my brother for a while and sister-in-law in Maypen. And until when about 7 months in the pregnancy, they're like, you have to tell your mom. My dad was away, thank God, and from work and in the United States, so I didn't have to face him. A man that always walked with him cutlass. I was afraid that I would get chopped up. And And so I really wouldn't go. But even in that, I could see God
Yes.
just directing my life that I didn't even recognize that. I didn't recognize that, and so I stayed until my dad came home right after, a week after I had the baby in February, and when he came home, nobody told him. They waited until he comes, and they didn't want to disappoint him being away. And when he came and looked and saw, they said, "Come and look here." And when he went and looked at the bed and saw, I run outside because I stand right at the door just in case he's coming after me. I just
Wow.
run.
I
And
can't
so,
imagine.
yes. And so I stood right at the door that when he comes out, I figured he's coming with the cutlass. I know that I'll be running. And, when he came and he reached at the other door, I am moving to go to run. And I'm like, he said, this is my dad. So corny. What is that on the bed? So I didn't understand what kind of question. What kind of question is that your father asking you? What is that on the bed? So he asked me 3 times. And he's like, girl, I'm speaking. I'm like, it's a baby, daddy. It's a baby. I call him Papa. It's a baby, Papa. You would expect that is it. My dad said. So where the baby come from?
Wow.
Where did you expect baby to come from? But those were the trembling moments. And right
Yes.
after that, my dad was so softened up, and him like, well, it happened already and we can't do anything. So make
Yes.
sure and then now he started at me now, make sure you take care of the baby, make sure you eat. And then while I was there, I was still treated as the little girl. You're not eating enough. The baby can't have breast milk and you're not eating. And I
So
was,
Bernice, let me interject again. In those days, parents would put their children out when they get pregnant in Jamaica. That's what I know, right?
yes, oh yes,
So your parents were very forgiving, right, and merciful, actually.
yes.
So tell us now. Let's jump from then to when your child grew up and your life changed. Let's.
Right. And so I returned to Kingston. I stayed with them, the child, for about a year. Then, I knew that in that area, community, you don't find, it's just you go to grade 6 or pass common entrance, or you go to grade 9, you leave school, you get pregnant, and that's it. But I knew I didn't want that for myself. And so I left and I came back to Kingston to find a job, to know, be preparing for that baby, even though they had adopted the baby as theirs, meaning that you go find job, we will take care of the baby. And that was my mom and dad, and so my child was not lacking. And even me, I was still be given, they were giving me money, you need this. And so I came back, and then when my baby was 2.5, I got married, as a young girl. I came now to Kingston. I attended the Arborview Gospel Chapel, and I got married.
So wait a minute. You just got married and attended church. I need to know, when did you get saved? Were you a Christian then?
Okay, but yes, I to me at that time, I like, okay, I accepted the Lord as a little girl. I wasn't even sure much that I
Oh,
did, but I know that I did. And what they call the conversion class, and you attended the conversion class and
yes.
thing, right? And so I did that. But while I was there in the country, I actually recommitted my life to the Lord.
Okay.
But when I came back to Kingston, I fell into sin, but I knew that that's not where I wanted to be,
Got
because yes, as a young Christian, I knew that's not where I wanted to be. And so, and I will tell you this, and and this is also for other young women,
right.
that do not cover up your sin or make it legal by getting married. and
Yes.
and that's what I did.
Right.
I legalized,
Okay.
sin.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All
So I
right.
was
So tell me now, how was it as a married woman then, if you legalized sin? What happened in your marriage life? Just tell us that story.
my marriage, took, obviously I was still going through the trauma of being pregnant. And as a matter of fact, being pregnant, the father didn't even own the child. So I was going through that as a trauma. And so going into that in marriage was also emotionally difficult. And so I didn't even know how to cope as a wife, because I was still going through that. But for me, smiling and just being around friends
Right.
were just my ways of dealing with the issue. Once I'm around my friends, grew up with some very good friends at Harborview Gospel Chapel. And once I was around them, I felt comfortable. I just wanted to be at youth meeting on Fridays. I just want to be at camp. We went to camp. So even
Okay.
though even though I was married, I was still engaging in youth meetings, camp, everything, and that helped me spiritually, you know, um, while trying to find work or working, and that really was a big part
So
for me.
what
And
was
so,
your husband? Tell us a little bit about your husband. How did you
okay,
meet him and
well
let's talk about that
he
relationship.
he also was attending the Harborview Gospel Chapel as a youth, right? So we met during that time. We became friends, and he at the time, quote unquote, I considered him to be a shy person. So, but he would be allowing. He's an allowing person, and when I say allowing, meaning that he didn't engage much, but he would like, you go ahead, you go to camp, you go play the games, or if he comes, he would sit watch me play the games. And for him, he said that was relaxing for him to just watch me, because as I tell you, I am an excited person. I'm an engaging person. So for him, that was okay. My friends would come over to the house, we'd play card dominoes until 1 2 o'clock in the morning, and that was okay for him, and that was okay for us. And so that was our lifestyle as youth, even though I was married. So even though I was married and they were unmarried, my friends, we all operate like that, and so that was my life. And then I brought my daughter into Kingston to live with us at 3. And for me, I saw him as the dad, that you would crown him the dad of the year every year, because he would make sure that my daughter is fed, even when I'm working and I'm tired and I'm always going to school. That's the thing with me. I'm always attending evening class just to, improve myself so that I could get a better education, so I could help out better with the family. And so, he would pick her up from school, the basic school in the community, and he would feed her and everything. And so, as I said, he would be the husband and the father of the year every year, until we decided that, okay, let us have a son. As a matter of fact, we were even going to adopt her, change her name. We went through the process until we reached at the very last, when her biological father decided that he wouldn't sign off on the paper. And so that year, and this is where, and I must tell you this, I must share this, that I'm seeing God working in my life, which I didn't understand. I remember that year I went to camp, and this is right at the part where we're signing off now to adopt my daughter in the marriage. And I
Right.
went to camp and I spoke with a counselor, and I explained to him that this is what I'm going to do. And he said, no, don't do it. No, I thought this counselor was crazy. How can you tell me not to do it when we're almost at the end? And he's like, I don't think you should do it. I think when she reaches 18 and she can do it on her own. So, I thought he was like not a good counselor. And then I thought about it the whole weekend. And then I was like, how can I go and tell my husband that? But, God gave me the strength and I braved it up. And I said to him when I reached home, from camp, I said to him, I have something to tell you. He said, I have something to tell you. And then he said, you go first. No, with me shaking, I said to him, I don't think we should, adopt a son and into marriage. I don't think we should change our name. And he was like, I thought about it the whole weekend. That's exactly what I wanted to tell you, that we should wait. So there was God putting things in place that I didn't even know. He helping me out. And, I that was a big thing for me. There was a time also where we were always in debt because our pages could not manage with the children and thing. And I remember we took out a bank loan and for a car, because we worked far distance and the bus, at that time was terrible. And so we took out the bank loan and the car was giving trouble from day one. And then we decided to return the car to the bank. and because we couldn't pay it. And I remember the bank called and said that, we owe this money. And I said, we know. And they said, you need to come in. And I was so afraid to go in. And then he said, you have to come in. And then when we went in, the credit officer said I'm to write down every single thing that I paid using our salaries. And I'm like, this man is crazy. I was very sarcastic. I said to him, oh, so I said everything. He said everything. I said, sir, I can't write everything. He said, yes, ma'am, everything. I said, so you want me to write even my private things that I buy as a woman? He like, yes, yes, ma'am. So, very being faced, I wrote it and I brought the long list to him with every single cent. As a matter of fact, there was overdraft. So he said, look at it. You're spending even more than what you earn. So he said, how do you buy those things? I said, well, every month I have to borrow. He said, that's the whole point in writing it down. In about 3 weeks, he said he's going to work out how we pay back an amount. In about 3 weeks, he called. He said, and these are the exact words, your debt is written off.
Wow.
So I said,
Jesus.
what did you say? He said,
Yes.
your debt is written off. I said,
Jesus.
I don't understand. He said, okay, ma'am, meaning that you don't owe the bank any money.
Praise the Lord.
That
Yes.
was another
Wow.
thing, and forgive me if tears come in, because as I remember it, I'm like, oh, God has just been working in my life. He
Since.
sent us the thing on email to say, okay, you want proof? This is it. You don't owe us anymore. And
Okay.
I would say, thank you, God. Fast
Grace.
forward, that was
Grace.
grace. That
Grace.
was,
Bernice.
yeah,
Bernice. Just I see that the relationship with your husband and yourself started out on a great no, right?
oh,
So
yes.
what was the turning point? Because I
Okay.
understand you told me that you're divorced. So what was the turning point? Let's pick
Yes,
it up from
yes,
there.
yes, I am. And so, even though, he understood in the marriage and thing, we always have issue, and thank God for our friends, they normally come and they encourage us and everything. But some years later in the marriage, it just was not working. And we've been to counseling upon counseling upon counseling. We moved from that church. We attend the other sister church. And the truth is that I always pretend. And if when you attend a church and when your issues, you're told that you must pray and you must have faith. So you grew up in a church where you must pray and you must have faith. So it doesn't matter what you're going through, pray and have faith. And this is what I was doing, no matter what the issues were, pray
Mm,
and have faith. And
mm-mm,
it would just became so overbearing.
mm,
Like I couldn't pray and have faith anymore. I'm like, God, is this gonna be my life? When is it gonna change? It
mm.
was just getting progressively worse. And so, he in about 2016, I'll just fast forward all the way to 2016 of all the issues, with we, as a matter of fact, we were like living like brothers and sisters, for a long time. We were not husband and wife. And so, things got worse where when my son came along, we were not even agreeing on the way that we would grow our son. And that became worse. And it was, he had to choose between daddy or mommy. And, he idolized his father so much. And so he, I was always the stern person in the family. I'm the stern parent. I believe that there should be respect and everything.
All right.
And
Yes. Thank Bernice. Yes. What was the straw that brought the camels
the
back?
straw that broke the camel's back was after the stress in 2016, I realized that I was coming home one day and we had so much quarrel and everything. And I was driving and I blocked out. And think when I went to the doctor, they figured I may have a mini stroke, and that was all caused from the stress. And then my cousin died, and I just told him, this is it. I can't go anymore. And so I left the home, because for me this was like, I don't care what my church says. I have to get out of this marriage. And I was willing to leave the church if they said to leave, because they don't believe in divorce. and I
So,
spoke
Bernice,
with them.
what happened to your children during this time? How did that impact them?
Well, my daughter in 2008, by this time she had migrated to the United States, but my son, he, because daddy was the one, he would friend him and he would give him anything. And when I said no, we never agreed. So he was like always on daddy's side, that daddy don't know how to tell him no or anything. And so my son was, it was me against them. That's how we were living, me against them. So when I left the home, I left them at the home. And
Okay.
so I wanted to use that separation, because in Jamaica they said married divorce gonna take many years. But this is God on my side. So I separated. I know we needed to separate for 1 year. And so
So
I left.
I'm hearing you saying that you had to leave the children at the home.
Well, my daughter
Right.
migrated and my son was still there.
Right. But before, let's look at the relationship with your daughter, whom your husband basically
Okay.
adopted. What
Okay.
was the relationship with her and
Okay. Let me backtrack a little. Um, so in 2006, 7, 8, 2008, same year she left. Before 2008, when she was going to her high school, I probably won't call her name. The Her English teacher, when she was in second form, came and told me that your daughter was molested and I need to talk to her. So as I told you, within that time, my husband and I were like twins. We were like everywhere together, doing everything together. So when we discussed it at home, and by the time we're trying to find out, talk to her, she wouldn't tell us who or what did it to her. And so we've been thinking about all the places that we would have left her. Not much family, because not much places, just a few family members where there were males. And we asked her and she would not say who or what. And so my husband and I at the time, we went to everybody. We're trying to ask Tashana, who did it to you? Who did this to you? Who did this to you? She wouldn't tell. And we I'm telling you, like every single where we went together to find out.
hmm,
No, there was one time that she went to a store downtown and she stole something. Now this is my daughter who don't do that. She stole something and they called me and they said your daughter stole. I'm like, no, that's not my daughter. I think you have the wrong person. They said, Mom, and they call her name. I said, yes, but that's my daughter. When I went, and after we brought her back home and everything, they said, okay, she's not like that, and they dropped the charge. When I brought her home, she said, she don't know why she did it. She didn't tell us. She said she don't know why she did it. And this was me and her father, her stepfather, my husband, saying to her why, and she said she don't know. Some long after, she said to me personally, she did it because she was trying to get attention. I said attention. She said yes, but she still didn't tell, and we still didn't know who molested her. So there was one time she just started misbehaving. Now this is a perfect child, a child who started misbehaving. For me, being a strict parent, I'm like, no, you're not going to be misbehaving when I am on the disciplinary committee at your school. This No, you're not going to be like that in my house. No, no, no. And so I would discipline her. And then there was one point, she made a statement, and I was like, no, I think you're going too far. I'm going to take it to the church, and I'm going to let the church talk to you, because I'm not going to tell you that I don't believe you. I'm going to take it to the church. And I did, and they did counseling with all of us and everything. Fast forward now, we built our home, and we moved into our home, new home in Portmore. And there's this fatal day, and I call it fatal because this was the straw that broke the camel's back. There was one night, imagine we moved over, still dealing with the issue. Our daughter still don't tell us who the person molested her. And here we are going through years upon years, and she's not talking. And she was very close. She was very close with my husband. As I tell you, when I was like disciplined, you're like, no, you've been too hard on her. You've been too hard on your son. You've been too this. You've been too that. No, this is me one night, and I'm gonna tell you. You call this raw, uncut. I went, and this is how.
raw and unedited stories? Yes.
Yes. And so here we are. My birthday had just gone, and we wanted to celebrate well as husband and wife. Oh yeah, so we put the kids to bed as we normally do. He does his normal round as a good husband would do. Check the place, make sure it's locked, make sure the kids are in bed, everything. And he always does that from I know him. So I'm here waiting now to for this very nice night. And I'm here. Why is he taking so long with the kids? This is just too long now, man. I can't wait. No, man. So here, so I'm like, I got out of bed, and I'm like, just because it was just so quiet. And I'm like, why is it so
So
quiet?
wait a minute, Bernice. Give me a minute. You were, you actually give us that scene. I like to hear those stories. You say you were in your favorite. Tell
Favorite
us.
lingerie in
Oh
my
yeah.
my new nice, because you've never seen it. I bought it lingerie. That this is gonna be the night of all nights. Oh yes. And so I am there waiting, waiting, waiting for him to come to see me in this new nice lingerie. Hot girl. Yes, hotter than fire. and, and so I'm there. And but as I'm saying, I'm so you can just imagine how anxious I am
Yeah.
waiting for the night. And it's just taking too long with the kids now. You should just make sure they're okay and then come back, man. It's time now, man. Because we planned the night. We planned the
Mm-hmm.
night. It's not like it's a surprise. He knew what we were gonna do and he knew the
Right.
night. So man, I'm like, okay. So I put on my robe and I'm like, let me go see if something happened with the kids. Because normally if something happens with them, you would spend a little time, whatever, talking with them. So I went. I know he went to my son's room because I know when the door closed, I know how it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I know he stopped by the fridge, got water, went to my son's room, closed the door. He went to my daughter's room. Now my daughter, from ever since, she's always in pain. Mommy, daddy, I'm in pain. Every in Jamaica, everything if you have pain, drink some tea.
Right.
So right. So it's always like that. So I figure probably she's saying she have pain or it's some school project. So she always go to him for school project, whatever. He's very creative. So I figure maybe something like that. So I was like, I wasn't here. Why am I not hearing them talking? I should at least be hearing from my reach in the kitchen. So I'm like, what's happening? So I walk down past the fridge,
Mm.
go down past the machine. It's almost in the passage. So I'm like, the closer I'm getting to my daughter's room, I should be hearing some talking. Then I'm not hearing any talking. The door was ajar, and when I looked in, there, my husband was making out, having sex with my daughter. She she was so ashamed of herself. Her hand was covered over her face, and she laid like a log. This is uncut on the bed, being raped. This my daughter being raped. Now you can just imagine. I don't think you could understand the
Mm-mm.
feeling then.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you the truth. There's a saying that say, never
Mm.
say never.
Mm.
I never understood that term because I always say, no, you can't. I used to say to people in patois, no, you can't say that. Don't say that. But until that day, I understood never say the term because right at that moment for me was to kill him. And this is, and I'm gonna tell you this that I reach into the kitchen because one thing is that security in our house, we know where we put the knives, we know where the cutlass is just in case an intruder came in. Now this intruder was in the house, my husband, and I reached to the kitchen where the cutlass is kept. There, I could not find the cutlass. I reached where we keep the knives because I decided I'm gonna kill him. At that moment, I'm gonna kill him. I looked for the knives. I could not find the knives. That was really absurd because how could it be when these are kept in certain place where you must know even in the dark, you go pick them up, and I could not find them. I can't explain that till today. Why?
Hmm.
And I reached, I drove to the supermarket. I jumped in my car because I decided I'm gonna kill him. And I drove to Portmore Pines. And when I reached the supermarket, just closed. Like literally, the security guard said, "Mom, we just closed." I said, "Sir, I know, but," and I lied. I can tell you I lied to him. I said, I have some meat to cut up. I have a function. I have some meat to cut up, and I need a sharp knife to cut it up. He said, but I can't let you in. I said, sir, I'm begging you, please. I have to do that tonight. He said, okay, what I'll do, I'll go look for a knife for you, but I can't let you in. And he went, and he came back, and he showed me the knife, and I'm like, sir, he came with a bread knife. I'm like, sir, that can't cut up the meat. And then I said, okay. So I said, security, that's the only knife? He said, yes, that's the only. I said, it's okay, thank you. So I left the supermarket, and I'm still in rage. And I started driving, and I'm telling you, driving real fast. And if a policeman was on the road, not even a policeman could drive me down. That's how fast I was going. And so my phone rang. And my phone rang, and I answered my phone because I didn't recognize the number. But when the person came on, they said, hello, he didn't identify himself as a police. But when he spoke, he said, did something happen at this number? I said, no. Then I recognized his voice. I knew it was a policeman that attended my church. He wasn't attending that time, but I recognized his voice. He's very, very popular police officer. And so I didn't want him to stop me going to kill this man. And so I said, I lied to him. I said, no, nothing happened at this number. He quoted my phone number. So I said, maybe you transposed two of the digits, but no, I'm good. No, nothing at this number. Then he hung up. And I'm like, oh, you think? So I said to myself, oh, you think you're going to stop me from killing this man? So I'm like, how did he get my number? Because my husband doesn't even, he doesn't know people. I am the one who is, I'm the one that know people about and things. So I'm like, who did he get this man number? Then a next call came in while I'm driving. Then I recognized that number. And it was my pastor, and I'm like, oh, so he called my pastor. Why did he call? He did something and he called. I thought I should be the one calling. I'm like, you're not. This pastor is not even going to stop you from me killing you tonight. It's not even gonna happen. And my pastor was like, sis, calm down. We're trying. I said, I guess he told you what the problem is. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if he told you what the problem is. But guess what? It's okay because I'm gonna kill him, and you're not gonna stop me from killing him. And he was like, no, 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 we're coming. I said, guess what? So this is me being crazy and enraged now. We used to have a roundabout, or the roundabout is still there. So I said, guess what? And I know he's coming. We're coming from two directions, but we have to meet at the roundabout. So I said to him in my crazy self, then, if you reach at the roundabout before me, you will get him and you will save him. But if I reach before you, I get to kill him. Bye. And I hung up the phone. And let me tell you something. If you think I was driving fast before, this is when I driving fast. I could hear the tires screech, making so much screech
And
around
so,
that roundabout.
so
So when I
Bernice,
reach home,
Bernice, at that time you never had any thought about God, the
no,
rage.
no thought about
I
God.
understand that.
All
Yeah,
I know, let me tell you, the only thought is that God will forgive me. But me
right.
sure God will understand, so me kill him because what he did was unforgivable. So God will understand that, okay, if him sin bigger than my sin. And the only thing that I thought about was that, okay, there is going to be two of us. One going to be in jail and one going to be in the morgue. And I am not going to be the one to be in the morgue. That's what I thought about. And so I told you, I drove so fast. But when I reached down, I saw the car. And I'm like, man, I was so upset that the pastor reached before me. And I
Wow.
jumped out of the car and I said, guess what? I was lying. I lied to you that if you reach before you get to save him, guess what? I'm going to kill him. And he was like, no, no, no. And he held on to me. And the long and the short is that we went in, there were three of them. And, he said, give the other two persons to talk to him. And they spoke with him. I'm like, 5 minutes. I said, 5 minutes. And I started, I'm telling you, I'm crazy. I started counting down. 4 minutes 59 seconds, 4 minutes 58, and that's how I'm counting down. Because it was, I want to know, like, listen, it's when it reaches zero, I'm going in to kill him if they don't come out before. And so when it reached 2.5 minutes, it seemed like forever infinity. And I said, guess what? I told you five, but five too long. It's either one of two things. I'm gonna go to the police station. I'm not even as I said, as a matter of fact, I'm not even going to the police station because I have police brethren. So he said, I may go to my police brethren or may I go inside to kill him. So decide which one you want.
All right. So, Bernice, at this time, how, where was your daughter, and how did you eventually interject from this situation?
So I left him and I went in where the other two persons were trying to get sense of the situation, trying to ask him what happened. So my daughter was in, so my son was still sleeping because he was young. He's 8 years younger than my daughter, so he was there sleeping down his room. And in my room, my daughter was there with the other two counselors, an elder and an elder daughter, elder's wife. Were trying to get for him to talk and for her to talk. And when I went in on him denying. Can you imagine? I saw with my two eyes him having sex, and he's there denying that he molested my daughter.
One sec. Tell me, how old was your daughter at the time, and was it the first time?
My daughter was 17. So this is what I want to tell you now. While he was there denying, my daughter was sobbing. Then this is the part that really got me out. You know what? When he lied on her, when I said to them, listen, I'm not gonna sit here, let this man lie. Right about now, so I was about to get up to pass them to go in the kitchen. And then when he lied, I heard my daughter, so I got up now because I'm going straight in the kitchen to go look for the knives that I couldn't find. Because I'm gonna kill him right in front of those people, and I didn't care. When I got up off the bed to go past, all I heard, and I heard my daughter said until this day she don't remember saying it, but all I heard, Pat, is, do mommy, please, I beg you, don't kill him, because uh, her brother, I'm not going to call his name, her brother, not going to have any father. That's what I heard, and she's crying, and she said it, and I'm telling you, I don't know what inside of me fell from going to get the knife. That's
Mm-hmm.
all I heard. And this little girl who is going through this pain at that moment, all she could think about was her brother not going to have a father because she knows I'm going to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And she said,
Mm-hmm.
please, mommy, don't kill him. Her brother not going to have a father.
And Bernice, tell me, was this the first time this happened?
Okay. So, the reason I got up to go for the knife was when she said, and it's not the first time him do it. From year 12, he might do this to me. From she was 12 years old until she's 17. Now remember I told you that
Mm.
she was abused and we have been searching. My husband and I have been going to everybody's home to find out who is the abuser because we were so close before we married that everything we do together. And so it was afterwards that I realized that because we were so close and we're always together, because one car, and so we go everywhere together, she could not say who it is because he's always there. And because not only the fact that he's always there, this is the abuser in front of her. This is the man that took her as his own daughter. How could she probably feel because I'm so strict, I'm not even gonna believe her. So she's carrying all that burden by herself, don't want to break up a marriage, don't want feel that she's probably gonna get put out of the house because everything is secret in her society. All of that. I can't even imagine what she was going through, bearing all of that for all these years. And all she did all these years is just lay like a dead log with the abuser in the house. And so every night, when I thought he's being the good husband, here he is going into my daughter's room and abusing her, having sexual relationship with her. There she is, just like I saw her on that night, like a dead log.
And Bernice, what? Meanwhile, he's going to church and serving at
Oh,
church.
what are you talking about? This man. We're Christians. We serve on the choir, even the church before. And we come serve on this choir, everything. Um, good up, church man, quote unquote, good up, husband, good up, church man. Oh, of course. And because, as I said, the type of personality I have and everything, and even though while we were having issues, and this is me protecting him while we were having issues, I always smile, even if we cuss just before I reach a church. When I reach a church, I am the church sister where pray and have faith. Oh yes, church people are supposed to know your business.
All right.
I never told anybody. The only
So,
person that knew were the three people.
right. So, Bernice, I can imagine that was the straw that break the camel's
Well,
back
you
and
know what, Pat?
caused you to leave him, right?
Let me tell you this, Pat. You'd never believe this, and a lot of people upset with me. Here I am as a good church sister, still going to a church that says they don't believe in divorce,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what. And so this was taken out to the church. So the church was doing full counseling. By Thank God that was in February. And by the August, her biological father filed for her and she migrated. Here I am thinking that she migrated, that would have solved the issue. Poor me, I didn't understand rape. It's the first I'm dealing with rape. I didn't understand it. So I thought if once she leave the island, maybe she would have forgotten it. We would have forgotten it. And so he was told to leave the house. He was asked to leave the house by the councils. And maybe it was like in a month, he begged and he pleaded. And here I am, a forgiving person. I told him before she left that, listen, my daughter is still here. I don't need, he said, well, he get put out of the house because she didn't have much space and she could only keep him for a month. And I said, my daughter is here. So I said, I'm gonna make you come back in the house to have somewhere to sleep. But if my daughter wants to go into the living room to watch TV, you can't be there. If she want to go down there, anywhere she go, you better go the opposite direction. If she want to be there, you go outside. And he agreed to every term and condition that I put in. And so he came in. And so while we were going through counseling, and so I decided that I'm gonna be the forgiving wife. While my daughter was away, I kept asking, how is she doing? How is she doing? And she always said, she's doing well. She's doing well. And, one of the time she kept asking, she kept still talking about daddy and everything. She forgive him. And, she encouraged me that make sure, we don't break up. And one of the times she said, if we break up, it's gonna be hard on her, and she don't know what she'll do to herself. And then over that period of time, I was told, my I didn't tell she went to live with my brother and sister-in-law. I didn't tell them what happened because I thought it would go away. But over time her behavior started manifesting. And she wrote a note the first time that they realized that she was suicidal. She wrote a note, and the one line in the note that says, everybody think I am okay, but pretty soon it's going to be all over. And so when she showed it to me, my sister-in-law came and she showed it to me. I'm like, we don't like how that look. And I still didn't even tell her what happened. And then that's how she started behaving while simultaneously we're going through counseling. And then, I said to him that, I'm going to forgive him, but I forgive you, but I put some terms and condition that if I sit and watch in front of the TV and we're watching the TV and there's an ad that comes on showing abuse, sexual abuse, and I decide to be upset and get up, you're going to have to understand that. He said, sure. And he said, anything, I'll do anything. Forgive me. And he asked for forgiveness. And that's how it was, where it was those terms. But guess what? Instead of him living by those terms and understand that he got forgiveness, pretty soon after that, he started like, oh, acting up, and there's verbal abuse now. And then they at church didn't understand. They didn't know what was happening. Only the three persons, elders, or the two elders or his wife. And so everybody wanted to counsel us because they saw us as the model couple because we're always laughing, everything. And so everybody wanted to counsel. No, man, you guys can't have issues. But every time that somebody would come and counsel, I tell him to go first. And when he go first, he said, oh, she's not washing my clothes. She's not doing this. And then they would like, oh, you ought to be a good wife and this and that. And, to be a good wife, you ought to do this. And I would just smile. And I would not say what the main issue is. And then I would say to them, yes. And when they're gone, I'm like, you're such a liar. Look at it. You can't even tell them what the issue is. And so it continued until 2016, where before that I found out that um, I realized he was in a relationship with someone, and I found it on his phone. I went into his phone, and I realized that, and he was having, he met somebody, and then he was meeting up, and the conversation continued. And so every night when he had the conversation, I would take a snapshot of it out of his phone,
Right.
and I build up the whole scenario. I build it up because I'm gonna prove when he lies, because everything he lies and it's not true. So I decide that I'm gonna get proof. And so for weeks I watched the conversation until when they decide that they're gonna meet, and I'm like, oh, you're gonna meet, okay. And I wait until they meet, and then they had the conversation and they talk about it, how their moment was good and everything, and it was uncut, and I take a snapshot of it in WhatsApp. And so this time now, this is the man who loved to call church people and the elders. And so he called the elders, and I remember that day he called, and I saw my pastor came, and he doesn't mind because my testimony, and I can speak my testimony. And he came, and I didn't know he was coming, and I sat there, and when I heard him at the gate, I was like, what's he doing here? And I remember the date because it was March 1. I was like, what pastor doing here? He should be at home. I'm sure today is his wife's birthday. He shouldn't be here. So he came in, and it was, he greeted me and everything. And then I said, what are you doing here? And he's like, well, and he explained, Brother Danvers called him, and that you guys have an issue. And he asked me what's the issue. And I said, let him go first. And as usual, it is me not behaving and oh, whatever. And I let him talk and talk. And then I said, Pastor, I have nothing to say to you. I'm just going to show you some text. And I showed him every text. Then Pastor read them out word for word. And instead of the man realize that he's caught at this moment, he's still denying. He said, I cook up those information. He said, it's me cook it up. Pastor said, brother, this is a photocopy of a text. And he denied it.
Oh,
And
Bernice.
that was what drew the straw for me. And so that
Yes.
was when I left.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I left.
Bernice, tell me, what do you think changed in this man from being um, award-winning father to somebody who lies and molests children?
You
And
know,
what happened to this man? What really happened?
Pat,
And a Christian man.
yeah, you know what I'm gonna say? I used to say he was sick. But you know what? When somebody's sick, there is, if you're sick physically, you can go to the hospital and get healing. Or if you're mental, you put in a mental institution or whatever. But I don't think this man is sick. I think he's wicked.
Wow.
Honestly, I think
Mhm,
he's wicked. Yeah.
mhm.
If he was sick, he could have compassion and he would say whatever. But I just think he's wicked because all the lies that he told, even when he was caught red, blue, green, red-handed, he still lied. He got caught. I saw with my two eyes, and he's still denying that he did it. As a matter of fact, when they were speaking to him, the thing that got my daughter, he said, when he realized he couldn't lie after they start questioning him, he said, she was the one. Now, this is the little girl, that's your daughter. He said, oh, when she in the car, she sit down and she used to sit down and have her legs open. And that attract him? That can attract you as a father? Listen, me, I think he's just wicked. Wicked, wicked. And you know what? The only person I'm sorry for in all of this are the two persons, my son and my daughter. My daughter who's going through this. I had to live with it because about 3 or 4 times I had to come to the United States. All I could say to my church is that my daughter is not well. I couldn't tell them what it is. She attempted suicide 3 times because she can't live with the pain. And even when the man know that this girl attempted suicide, he was still not being remorseful. No, he was not. And
So Bernice, as a mother, did you blame yourself at any point for what
of
happened to your daughter?
of
And how did you overcome that, if
of
you
course
did?
of course I blame myself because guess what? My daughter hated me now. It reached it up when this came up. My daughter hated me, and I couldn't understand why she hated me. And for years, I've been trying to build a relationship. No, this broke the relationship with my daughter, and it was long years part when I came and she said when I really had to sit down with her because by this time she migrated and I couldn't understand why she hated me. And she said to me that at the time when I was disciplining her, when I didn't know what was happening before the teacher told me what happened, and I remember, oh, I remember I did that. Let me tell you what I did. So when she started acting up, when she didn't know how to deal with it and she started misbehaving in high school, I thought, as parents would say, oh, so you think you have feather now. So you reach a high school now, so you're misbehaving. That's what I thought. I didn't know that the little girl was being molested. So for me, as a disciplinarian, I decided that I wouldn't have that in the house. And so I remember that day, then she did something and they called me from my company and said she's going out with this man, this big coworker of mine. And somebody called me and said, if it was my daughter, I would want you to tell me. And I'm telling you, that's what your daughter did. Because she was supposed to come to me after school. And she kept coming late. So I figured, oh, so so you're having man now. And I remember that day I got so upset because I felt so ashamed that I am on a disciplinary committee at school. And here's my daughter misbehaving. And I tell you, that day I got so upset and I stripped her naked. And I'm going to confess that I stripped her naked in front of the perpetrator, who I didn't know at the time. And I whooped her bottom. And I said, you are going to start behaving from this day. And I tell you, Pat, every day I have to live with that. I have to live with that. Every day I have to live with that. And that's why she hated me. Because when I was beating her, that was when she said, imagine me beating her and discipline her. And she said, and daddy touched me. So for me, that's when I said I was told that never to tell your child that they're lying. Never to tell your child. Even if you don't believe, don't tell them that they're lying. And I remember specifically, I said to her, I'm not going down that road with you. I'm going to let the church deal with it. The truth is that, Pat, I never understood how that sounded at the time.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's long after I realized how it sounded. Yes, that could mean to her at that moment in time. When you beat her and you said that it means that you're telling her that she's lying.
Right.
I never knew that's what it meant. And she lived with that and she hated me for that because
Bernie.
she told me. And
Yes.
when I found out, it's like I couldn't live with myself, but at the same time, I have to be living for her because here is the girl, here's my daughter attempting suicide. How many times she
Mm-hmm.
take tablets to kill herself, whatever. Here is she going through it. And I'm like, if I kill myself, as a matter of fact, I was I was I was gonna kill myself, and I have to tell you that too. There
So,
was one
Bernice,
point,
well, before you
yes,
get to that, is your daughter, is she doing therapy? Is she,
yes, she was doing therapy. She was doing therapy, but you know what, Pat? There's a train the child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they will not depart. Because my children grew up in church.
mm-hmm.
That's all she knows, church. And so this is what has kept her until this day.
Mm-hmm.
She being a young Christian, even when because of the abuse, she has gone through the process of any abused child would do. And there's a poem that she has that is still on YouTube. She I always teach her to write when she don't know to talk to write, and so she always write. And so she was able to put her abuse in a poem that is still on YouTube.
Right. So,
And
a follow up to that question, Bernice, before I get to, I'm coming back to the point where you felt as if you would commit suicide yourself. I'm going to get to that. But before I get to that, how is your daughter as a Christian based on what happened to her? Or is she as a Christian? Or is her faith? Did it grow? Did she did she get involved in church? Was she still trusting in church and in the Lord after that? Talk
oh
to
yeah,
us that.
Oh yes, and that's why I said, because church is all she knew. And then when she came to live with my sister-in-law, my brother, they were deacons in their church people, so are not deacons yet, but they became deacons afterwards. They too, all they grow their children in church. So Tashana became a part of the family. That is church. Doesn't matter what, it's church. And so even when she even she stepped outside of being a Christian, even when she sinned, call it sin, we sin, she comes right back to the Lord because that's what she knows. So the church helped her when she wants some relief of what she's going through. She would dance, she would be involved in church activities. So even if you want to call it to say you're covering up what you're going through, it still helped her because she know how to pray, she know how to minister. But as I said, the devil sometimes want to tell you that you're not worthy, you're not good enough. And so that kept her for a while not wanting to be the person who God called her to be, because she kept seeing herself not worthy, but she's still going to church every day.
And
She don't
also,
miss church.
right, that's great. That's awesome. And I want to ask you this question. How did it impact your other child, your son?
My son, the way he took it now, so I literally had to. I realized by now he found out what the issue was because he was old enough now. And so I had to sit him down and I had to explain to him what his father did, because I had moved out of the room. And when my daughter left, so I was in that room. As a matter of fact, I couldn't even go in that room. I couldn't even go in that room because I just, every time I pass that room, all I'm seeing is the night. And so he was like, he couldn't understand why mommy was in his room. And so I had to explain to him why I moved out of that room and was in his room. And when I explained to him, he took it bad. But how he went into quietness. He didn't talk. He was quiet from before, but now he was more quiet than anything. Because this is the man who he idolized. And this is the man that let him down. And I could understand he didn't know what to do, what to say, who to go to. And so he didn't talk. All he did was play games and games on his computer, did anything, and in fact it impacted his schoolwork negatively. He just never passed the courses, because this is a boy that went with a 92 average from GSAT, was doing well, and so was doing well in school, and after that his grades just start going down.
So tell me, how did that impact his church life? Your son's church life? Did he continue
Well,
to go to church? What happened there?
because I was still going to church at that point in time, he had no choice. So whether or not he wanted to go, he must go. And so, but guess what? After a while, daddy like, oh, if him not feel well, him not for go. It wasn't about praying that. And I noticed that he started using like him don't feel well, and even daddy himself, him not feel well. When he no one go to church, him head a hurt him. And every Sunday morning, him head start hurt him, and him no one go to church. And so because him not go to church, him son decide say, oh, he must stay with daddy, because by this time he's on daddy's side. So even though he was upset, he still idolized and he still want to be with his father. So pretty soon, him not go to church because daddy not go to church. And then him just stop go to church. Him just
Oh,
stop go to church.
so,
And then him start getting disrespectful to me. And
mm-hmm.
so disrespectful that I'm telling you, one day I couldn't take it more anymore. I almost literally killed him. I went in, he said something that was so hurtful to me. And I went into the kitchen pot, and this is uncut, and I took up what we call the big Dutch pot in a Jamaica. And I took up the big Dutch pot, and I was about to slap him with the big iron Dutch pot. And then father hold me on, because if that did catch him, I tell the same would have dead. Because I couldn't take the disrespect no more.
So, Bernice, what I'm hearing from your story and the impact on your emotions is that there's so many times that it was so difficult that you had an outburst. It's like you became a firecracker. And um, comparing then to now, how are you now?
Well, Pat, and to get here, I can't leave this out because the truth is that my pastor, and I must big him up, Pastor Black, he counseled the family and he counseled us one and one individually. But after a while, the husband didn't want no more counseling. But I continued, and he had to get me, as I said, I reached at the stage where I was going to commit suicide. I sat on the veranda, I remember that day, and I decided that I'm going to walk out on the road, on the dike road, and I'm just going to go right in front of the vehicle and just be killed because I couldn't go through it anymore. And I sat on the veranda waiting for the vehicles to start coming more frequently. And as I sat there, I'm looking right because I could see the dike road, and I'm looking, and I'm like, yeah, they're coming, they're coming. But I want to make sure plenty of vehicles are coming, one behind the other. So if the vehicle that I walk in front miss me, the second one won't miss me. So I have to get hit and I have to die. And as I sat there waiting, and just as I was about to get up, I got a call. And I always go on missions before, I always go on missions and with my elder, and every time when I saw the call from him, I couldn't understand why he's calling me so early in this Saturday morning. I say, why elder calling me so early? But I took his call, and I took his call, and he said, his words to me were that the devil is out to sift you. And I'm like, what? He said the devil is out to sift you. And I'm like, why is he telling me that? And I didn't even, I was going to hang up the phone because I was going to say, I'll call you back. I didn't want to hear what he has to say because I didn't want him to stop me from the suicide. And somehow I just couldn't get up. I couldn't get up. And I just listened. I listened to him. And the tears was just running. And that's what saved me from committing suicide. And then after that, my pastor started the counseling, and he continued with me so patiently. Even when I didn't see myself worthy, he continued and he prayed with me. And every week, I go through the counseling. And by this time, Mr. Danvers decided that him son now gone away, and him son decided to be with him where he is. But I know I had to continue because I was getting physically weak, this stressful, everything affecting my health, everything. And so that helped me and brought me that I could be in a position that I could even start counseling other young people who have been abused. While I'm not formally trained, but what I mean, God has just brought me like, I know, I can tell being around somebody, they don't have to tell me. And I don't know if it's a gift, maybe it's a gift, but it's like they would just start opening up. And the moment they start even telling me, or they start pretending and, hi, how you doing? I could tell. And just allow them to open up, and they would tell me.
Tell me,
And
Bernie,
so,
tell me, thanks for sharing that. And I'm so grateful to hear that because out of our trials, the Lord brings forth purpose, right? And I'm thinking about your relationship with your daughter now and your son. How is that going?
okay. So when I when I decided to separate and I left the house, after time, I really miss my son. And I learned even during counseling, how to just apologize. And I did it, and I realized how much he missed me. So even though he was behaving like that, I realized how much he loved his mother. That was when I realized he loved me. I thought he didn't. I thought he was just being like his father and thing. And so, I apologized, and then we came around, and the relationship started growing. It took a while. It didn't just get there, but he was able to grow and to say hi, and we could be in the same space for more than 5 minutes, because at one time it was just passed by, and he wouldn't even say hello. He would just pass me, not even as his mother, and he wouldn't even see that I'm his mother, and he would just gone. But we could be in the same space for 5 minutes. We could say hello until it grew, until now, we're like bosom buddies. Well, my daughter, it's taken a toll because she came to live here. We didn't get a chance to be in the same space. And so when I came in 2019 to the United States and I was staying with her, she was getting better and she was healing. Me, my presence acted, brought back the whole scenario to her. And as I said, as you go along, you learn. You learn by what you see. And so for me, after she was doing so well, I couldn't understand her behavior. She just started acting up. And then at one point she confessed that, I had to ask her, why you behaving this way? Why you treating me this way? And then, she was able to say that my presence brought back the whole scenario of what she's been through. Because remember, she left, so we weren't together. We never had no time to be in the same space. We just talk on the phone. How you doing? And she's always smiling. She's okay. She's always okay. All when she's not okay. And that's the impression she gives everybody. You know. So that time now is like, for me, I have to relive the whole situation all over again, being with her. And I was with her, like for a year, and that was awful. That was awful. And that was when I could reach out to my good friends or to my pastor, to say, this is difficult, I don't know, I can't go through this, and then they would explain to me, and I learned more about abused person and thing, and God would just allow it that we ended up in this drama group, or drama director from Trinidad. And he's bringing out the Christian out of us and our purpose out of us. And this is how she was able to bring out and to come up with the poem to speak about her abuse. And by this time now, she and I can talk, and I encourage her to say, it is your testimony. It doesn't matter how it want to impact me. It doesn't matter how you feel about me. It's your testimony. Speak your testimony,
Right.
because, yeah, and I had to be living this all the years. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't tell anybody. I had to live it down because I couldn't speak until she was able to speak.
Right.
So I had to respect that from her,
Mm-hmm.
that, as much as it hurt me, and sometimes to just, I want to just speak and say bad things about my husband. I couldn't,
Mm-hmm.
because
So,
it would impact her.
Bernice, at this point in time, have you forgiven your husband,
Oh, yes.
and has your daughter forgiven him as well?
Well, at first, but I thought, when I was going through, I thought I had forgiven him, until when I saw my daughter, she attempted suicide. I was like, mm-mm. And then he started acting up, like, saying things, bad things about me. I was like, I thought I'd forgiven him, but the truth is that I just blocked it. I just blocked it to live in peace, but I really didn't forgive him until, I was still able to be going through counseling with my pastor, and he taught me how to forgive, the spirit of offense. I was taught about the spirit of offense. And I have forgiven him, and to learn that forgiveness is not really for him, because I was not in peace. So the forgiveness isn't really for him, it's for me, so that I can be at peace
Amen.
and live. So just
Amen.
want to share it with everybody, that
Yes.
the perpetrator, when you forgive,
Yes.
it's not for them. The person who did you
A-
wrong, it is for
Absolutely.
you. And you
Absolutely.
won't receive the peace that God says, that passeth all understanding, until you forgive. Until you
Absolutely.
forgive. It's for you.
Absolutely.
It's for you.
Absolutely.
So I'm so much at peace. You know, I, I
Praise the
basically,
Lord.
I learned to leave it to God. I mean, there are a lot of people, before anybody knew, they used to say, as a Christian girl, I don't understand, as a Christian woman, why you leave your husband, because I never tell. Even my coworkers, they're like, Bernice, what's happening? That's not like you, because
Right.
he used to be on every trip with me at work, so everybody at work know him. So they
Right.
would be like, when I left him, they were like, mm-mm, mm-mm. What is it so much that you can't forgive your husband? And I never tell them, until one day I decided that, listen, I need to release what's happening. And when I told them what him do, the same person who said to me, why you can't forgive your husband, when they heard what happened, they were like, and you never kill him?
Hmm.
This
So,
is the same person,
yeah.
you
So,
know.
Bernice, it's amazing to hear the concept of forgiveness throughout this, and even your co-workers looking on and hearing your story. it's difficult for them to even think of forgiving, right?
Yes.
So forgiveness, as you said, it's not about the person, it's about you.
Yep.
And that's a very important point, Bernice. And you know what? I'm listening to your story, and I'm feeling everything that you went through, throughout this talk that we are having. I'm feeling it. But what I really feel and hear is God's grace and mercy.
Oh,
God's
hallelujah.
grace and mercy to take you to this place to live with your daughter and for you to have a civil relationship. And I hear that it is a process, the healing process. It's
Hmm.
long and it's hard, but throughout the
Yes.
process, tell me, what are some things that you're learning through this process?
Oh, I'm learning to be patient. Oh my God. That is a hard virtue, to be patient, because if I look on it, and sometimes in my fleshy self, and then when she would say something that's harsh, I would say, I would probably want to say, oh, she's wicked or whatever. But I learned to say, God, I'm not gonna respond in that manner. I learned to say, God, as them would say in Jamaica, you tie your belly.
Yes.
And yeah, you tie your belly and you swallow it, and you just walk away. Either you walk away, and I'm learning so much not to answer. I learned so much to smile. And before, I'm telling you the truth. Don't think it's all, oh, of course I forgive. And no, I did say some hurtful things to her too, because I'm like, how could you be so wicked in saying those things? But I learned to apologize, and it takes some time to apologize. And I learned sometimes not to answer, and just realize where it's coming from, and realize that she needs healing so much
Yes.
that
Do you
you
know
know
what I want to ask you? Do you know what I want to ask you? Tell me two things you learned about yourself during this journey, this difficult journey, that any mother, no, I don't know a mother who would want to experience something like this. Tell
no.
me two things you learned about yourself. And when you're done telling me that, right, I want you to tell the mothers how how to to deal with something like this. What would you say to our mothers? So talk about yourself first and then talk to our mothers. I give you that opportunity to just speak into the lives of our mothers.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Pat, I learned, and this is a learned behavior. And when I say learned, because it's coming from history, culture, that I didn't know how to communicate with my children. You grew up in coming from the country, you don't talk certain things with your parents because you're considered rude. And even though I came to Kingston when I was 12, I still was not, probably should say, exposed enough. Or yes, I was exposed, but I still would not talk. I would not talk, so I thought certain things were taboo. And you don't talk it with your child or children, and you think it's too much. So that I've learned, that I didn't know how to communicate. And maybe I can simultaneously speak to mothers in that respect, that, listen, mothers, culture, we have to get out of culture, and we have to know, we have to talk to our children, we have to learn to listen to them,
Yes,
listen, hear what they don't say, not just what they say, but what they don't say, because that's very important.
yes,
They don't say everything. Get to know your children.
yes.
Excuse me, I'm
Well,
still suffering from COVID.
yes. And so, Bernice, I really thank you for coming here today to share with our listeners that heartfelt story. And we're going to have you soon to talk about your COVID experience
Oh,
and other
Jesus.
experiences that you have had. Because I know you have had so many job experiences. But I just really, really want to thank you for sharing this story that so many people would have withheld. And I know that our listeners will walk away with something. Before we even close this session, one sentence, one walk away that you want to leave with our listeners.
One thing I would tell you, trust God. It seems like God is not working on your case, but He is. Trust Him.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So, listeners, thank you, Bernice. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to God's Scoop, where we share raw and unedited stories. I know you have a story to tell as well. So you can connect with us on social media platform at God Scoop or hashtag God Scoop or our God Scoop and app and Play Store. See you soon to tune in to our next story.